first career steps. And here you see the series of career profiles that offer an overview of career options in the life sciences industry. Each profile includes details about educational requirements, job responsibilities, desired skills and qualifications, as well as insights from professionals who are currently working in those roles. And you can see 14 career profiles ranging from research to regulatory and HR roles, all within life sciences industry. Next slide, please. I want to share this one profile specifically for R&D roles. As you can see, the top provides an overview, followed by a list of everyday tasks and responsibilities. And also you can see who is hiring, the list of skills and qualifications, as well as program alumni quotes. And with next slide, I'm happy to introduce you the Life Sciences Career Resources Library, which is an online hub designed to support students and early career professionals navigating their careers in the life sciences. So this library brings together curated resources for career exploration, skills building, also job search, and professional development tools. And we hope this will be useful source for all of you. And I'm happy that this is the first time we are sharing these resources with you. And you're always welcome to provide your feedback and your thoughts on how it is helpful for you. On this slide, you see, for example, like a screenshot of the library and some resources, and here we highlight different tools that would be really helpful for you. Next, thank you. And now I would like to welcome our three guest panelists, who are also happen to be our Life Science Vice Internship Program alumni. We have here Audrey Brown, Clinical Research Coordinator at NYU Langone Health. We have here Eric Lin, Scientist, Process Development at LEXEO. We also have here Ijeoma, Research Assistant at the Rockefeller University. So thank you for being with us today and also willing to share your experience and with our audience, who is typically students from New York City. Now I would like to ask you to take your time and to introduce yourself, providing a brief summary of your career path up to this point, and also include your education and major. So feel free to go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. My name is Audrey Brown. So I joined the Life Sci NYC network during my third year of undergrad. I attended NYU College of Arts and Sciences. I studied neuroscience and graduated in 2024. And so a little bit of my research there was mainly focused on cognitive and behavioral neuroscience. And then through Life Sci NYC, I was able to join an internship at Pfizer and worked on their migraine team in the Department of Medical Affairs, which was incredibly valuable. And I pursued that internship through my junior summer and throughout my senior year, which was great. And that leads me to postgrad, where I have since been working as a clinical research coordinator at NYU Langone Health. I'm up at the Epilepsy Center on East 34th Street, and I'm focusing on rare pediatric genetic epilepsies. But looking forward to speaking with you all today.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Eric, do you want to go for next?
Sure. Hey everyone, my name is Eric. Initially I went to Vassar College for my undergrad where I did my BA in biochemistry. I also did a dual degree program at the Dartmouth School of Engineering. So I got a BE in biological engineering. After graduation, I was lucky enough to get accepted into the Life Sci internship program, and I started as a process development intern at LEXEO Therapeutics. So a little bit about LEXEO. We are a gene therapy company focused on cardiac indications. So we're focused on diseases such as Friedreich's ataxia. So these are diseases caused by mutations in a mitochondria protein frataxin. And what I do in process development is optimizing and scaling up the manufacturing process for the production of the drugs. So our drugs are viral vectors. So these are protein viruses, and within each protein contains a functional copy of a gene of interest. So in this case, frataxin. And that way we're able to potentially treat the disease. So I started as an intern there, and I was able to extend my summer internship towards the end of the year. And then following the end of the year, I got a full-time return offer. So I started as a associate scientist. I've been there ever since, and recently I just got promoted to a scientist. So that's where I'm at, where I'm now.
Thank you very much, Eric. Ijeoma?
Thank you so much, and I'm so glad to be here with all of you. My name is Ijeoma. I graduated from Columbia in 2024. I studied biomedical engineering in the School of Engineering and Applied Sciences for my undergrad. Some of my research during my undergrad was focused on synthetic biology and how we can tie in using viruses to target certain cancers. So during college, I was drawn to translational research, and really how we can have basic bio translate to therapeutic impact. And originally, I had an internship through LifeSci during the summer of my junior year at NYU Langone, which was a fantastic experience. And afterwards, I looked towards perhaps interning with a company to see if I could really see this therapeutic impact I was so interested in. And so through LifeSci, I was connected with Inspirna, which was a company where we worked on small molecule inhibitors to treat colorectal cancer. We played around with current treatments for cancer, such as cetuximab, and currently things that are very much on the market now, such as antibody drug conjugates. So this strengthened my interest in metabolism and cancer biology, and I was really curious as to how cellular metabolism can be exploited. Unfortunately, the company closed, which made me think carefully about my next steps. And I thought again of what I really wanted to do. And so I turned back to LifeSci NYC, and this transition brought me to the Rockefeller University, where I currently work as a research assistant through Dr. Kavanj Bursoy's lab. We work to discover unknown components of cellular metabolism, and I currently work alongside my postdoc to really uncover endoplasmic reticulum's metabolism, deorphanizing transporters, understanding their function, and how it connects to human disease.
Thank you so much. Sounds really interesting, and I'm really excited for this panel because we have prepared some questions for you. And also, I'm pretty sure our meeting attendees, they will also have a lot of questions. And first question that I want to ask you, as all three of you are alumni of the Life Science internship program, and we know that it's not really easy to find an internship. So what do you think made you stand out and land an internship? And what advice do you have to others? Especially Ijeoma, because you were lucky to have 3 internships with our program.
Should I get started on this one as well?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, I think it was really valuable for LifeSci NYC to kind of have all of those amazing resources when it comes to preparing for interviews and even just looking at like a streamlined list of things that are out there in New York. And so I think that really tailoring down your genuine interest on something is something that was really important for me, and being able to articulate exactly what about a position interested me and how that connected to my experience. But I think it was also always important to keep in mind to, you know, really go for a lot of different things and put yourself out there, talk to as many people as possible, because there are a lot of young scientists looking to get involved. And just because you don't get offered an interview or don't get offered a position, you know, doesn't mean that there isn't more out there for you. So I think just the best advice that I could give would be connect with as many people as possible, even reaching out to people who are maybe past interns of a specific company or institution, or maybe they're early in their career now, and just get to know what they do, not in the sense that you're hoping they'll help you in some way, just in the sense that you can learn the terminology they use and the way they express their interests. So that's hopefully something you can utilize as well.
That sounds really helpful. Thank you, Audrey, because I think this is really important to realize that connecting with people from the start is something that will help you to grow for your career as well, right? Networking is really important. Thank you.
I can speak a bit. So I've been on some interview panels at my time at LEXEO. So here are some tips, I guess, for the interview process. So one thing we really want to look for is we want to see preparation. So, you want to be prepared to talk about your work. Are you able to explain a project from start to finish? You want to be able to define the goals. What techniques did you guys use? What experiments did you do? What was the design like? Did you get quality data? And what conclusions can you draw? And if you didn't get good data, like why do you think you didn't? And if you were able to troubleshoot that in any way. And that's just a really good sign to show for us to have scientific confidence in you as a candidate. Another thing is you want to do your research for the company. You really want to understand the science. What is the product? Are they selling like a technology? Is it a drug candidate? Is it a service? So try to ask a question or two about that, just to show you did your research. And then finally, I would say the number one thing people are looking for any entry-level position, like an internship or associate role, they always refer back to, are you a good culture fit? They really want to see like how easy it is to potentially work with you, because you may have all the technical skills in the world, but if you don't give off the impression you'll be easy to work with, it's not gonna happen. So in that respect, like during the process, try to like open up a bit about yourself, try to talk about your hobbies, your interests, not just purely science. And I think that can really help. And then just broad advice about the job market itself. So for people in life sciences, especially if you're interested in biotech, you have to understand that biotech is a risky sort of field out there. So in a sense, it's kind of controlled by macroeconomic factors like interest rates. So if interest rates are high, which they were for quite a bit, that disencourages people from investing in biotech, and that reduces the number of job opportunities. So this market is like very cyclical. So just be aware of that as you're applying for these opportunities, or you're not seeing as many opportunities as you think there should be.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. And I think these are really helpful interview tips. And the key is preparation always for the interview. and being open. Thank you so much.
I'll add, thank you so much. I'll say on my end, my biggest piece of advice is being willing to learn. A lot of companies are looking for curiosity, reliability, and whether or not, even if you have all the technical skills, are you willing to learn something new? Are you willing to be mentored? And for example, so many of my internships, I came in with technical skills such as cell culture, Western blotting, in vivo work with mice and so on and so forth. But there's just so many skills that you're going to learn on the job and protocols and items that, even if you were amazing in, college bio, you just might not be prepared for it. So it's something that I think everyone should be willing to do, is willing to learn, willing to be mentored, willingness to ask questions, and, always being willing to be open-minded and communicate if you're unsure or if you just want to double check something. I'll also add that the LifeSci NYC team really does a great job of matching students with opportunities. So I'll say that my final piece of advice is to really be intentional when you're applying. For example, don't just list your skills on your resume or so on, but similarly to what Eric and Audrey said, explain how you use them, explain how your skills contributed to the project, how it contributed to the end goal. And don't be afraid, for example, to apply even if you don't check all the boxes for a company, because you'd be surprised to find out that some companies are willing to work with that. And as long as a candidate is willing to engage and willing to learn more about the life science ecosystem and what that company does, that can make you a really great candidate for them.
Thank you, Ijeoma. I also took some notes. It's really, for me, also really interesting to hear someone who's been as an intern here and thank you for your kind words about our team, and we are always happy to help our applicants to be successful. And all of these tips are really helpful, and I hope those who are listening us today, they will also take notes and follow the tips. Right, so next question I want to ask Audrey. How did the medical affairs internship at Pfizer and your educational background in neuroscience help you transition to your current role as a clinical research coordinator at NYU Langone? And what overlap and differences do you see between industry and academia?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that industry and academia both have their pros and cons, and are very different, but can build on a lot of similar skills. So I would definitely recommend that, when students are exploring internships, to explore both, because the culture and the pace can be very different. But just a little bit, I wasn't super familiar with medical affairs before I joined the Pfizer team. So in case anyone isn't, medical affairs is really focused on patient advocacy and translating research sort of from the clinical side to the more community side, and working, in that in-between space between, okay, what happens at the pharmaceutical company and clinical trial outputs, and what happens when doctors and nurses are talking with their patients and with their communities, and how does that information get conveyed, and also how does it get conveyed back to the pharma company in terms of how drugs are working, or maybe how a medical device is working. Because of this, I think that the exposure I had to patient advocacy and being able to really interpret the downstream effects of clinical trial outputs, for me, that was really helpful when I decided to shift gears and become a clinical research coordinator, because now that I'm more patient-facing and working directly hands-on with the research, it's given me a broader context of what happens at the industry level, which I think is really important.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your experience. It's really interesting to see this intersection and how it can be each other, help each other. Yeah, thank you. I have similar question for Eric and Ijeoma. So you both successfully turned your internship into full-time offers at LEXEO and Inspirna, respectively. So can you share your insights on what led to your success? Thank you. So anyone wants to share?
Yeah, I could go. Yeah, so when I started at LEXEO, I think some things I did early on was just trying to take good notes and just observe how things were done. Another thing is just understanding what the company objectives are, and then just started tracking kind of my own goals and just seeing how well they fit with the company's goals. So just building that alignment there. And just kind of based off that, I just try to build a role for myself where I was just actively contributing to the company's objectives. And then part of that was just trying to lead and manage my own projects and also just taking the initiative to do things on my own sometimes. Another skill I picked up on was just learning to prioritize projects because you just don't have time to do everything, right? So just understanding where to put your time into most effectively, I think it's a good skill. So, example of this is when I started, I was tasked with optimizing the manufacturing process with, these small scale experiments. But then there was a kind of a turning point when we were getting like poor data from our like at scale manufacturing process. So like something was wrong there. So like from that, once that happened, like I completely switched gears, like dropped like all my previous stuff so I can like focus on, this new thing that's like higher priority, and just trying to help out as best I could for that. And I think, people pick up on that, and that's kind of, you just want to just show you're having a positive impact at the company.
Thank you, Eric, for sharing your experience. And it's really interesting because it's everyone's dream to continue to get a full-time job after internship, right? Ijeoma?
Thank you so much. I will say that very similar to Eric, for me, the biggest factor in turning my internship at Inspirna into a full-time offer was treating the internship as the beginning of the journey rather than, for example, just a one-off summer experience or a one-off fall experience. So I made a point to really engage with the work, understand the science, ask questions to higher researchers at the company, and showing genuine curiosity about the projects I was supporting, as well as projects that I wasn't supporting. So, for example, even though I worked as an R&D intern, I would show interest in the clinical side and more so the business side and how we were doing in terms of funding. And I also focused on integrating myself into the team by asking these questions, getting to know people across these different departments, and looking for ways to contribute beyond my assigned task. I'll say that over time, that helped me to build trust and to demonstrate that I wasn't just there for the internship, but that I cared about the company's values and about their mission and that I wanted to grow with them. So my biggest advice for anyone who's really trying to turn an internship into a full-time opportunity would be to be proactive and to sort of treat it as auditioning to be a full-time colleague.
Thank you, Ijeoma. I like that you said you treated your internship as the beginning of your journey, which is really important, and just being professional from the start. it will give you really good value. Right, really interesting. Next question I want to ask to three of you. Can you share what challenges did you face when starting your career and how did you overcome them? Anyone that wants to share?
Yeah, happy to. Let's see. I think the biggest challenge that I and many other students and interns face is really just that experience paradox when it comes to your first internship or even your second internship or first full-time job, in that everything requires experience and you feel like you don't have a lot of it at all. So I think that the biggest thing I did was learning how to leverage like part-time lab positions and volunteer lab positions from school, or even if that's outside of school. But even just small scientific experiences that helped me explore my interests, and just using those to just build a little bit of experience and then really dive into those topics on your own. And so that way you can learn the terminology of the field, and learn how to fully express your interests and what inspires you. I think that can, help really convey genuine motivation, even when you only have like 6 months of a lab position behind you.
Thank you so much for sharing your challenges and how to overcome.
I can go next. Yeah, so I guess a challenge of going from school to work, it was just adapting to how much different it is. So I think we've all know this, but like, when we go to class and we go to labs um for for our classes, we're doing these like very clean experiments. I'm thinking about like organic chemistry, you go in, you do the reaction steps, you measure your yield, you get the melting temperature and like you write your lab report and you can go home, you know. But like that never happens in real life. Like science in real life is very messy. Things will go wrong all the time. So like example of this is when I started, our manufacturing process was not well established. So we just had to do so many like different experiments. Things would go wrong and we had to do like troubleshooting on top of that. And it just took a lot of time and energy to just get the process up and running. And then the pace is just different too. Like things are happening so fast. And 1 week you need to work on project A, and then the next week, like no one cares about project A anymore. It's all about project B now. Um, so that was like pretty challenging. I think what really helped me get past that was just being able to find good mentors. So in my example, I want to shout out my first manager, Marina Goldfeld. She was the director of process development, but basically like she taught me everything I needed to know about like how, what it is to be a scientist, so in terms of like how do you interpret data? Like, are you seeing something significant or is it just noise? Like how do you design a good experiment? What are the variables you're testing? How do you set good controls? And if something ever goes wrong, just think like it doesn't just happen randomly. There's always some sort of cause and effect. So you have to like be able to understand that and then look at the differences, looking at what's changed. So I guess one thing that helped me through was just being able to find good mentors and then just trying to learn as much as you can from those people.
Thank you so much, Eric. Ijeoma, do you want to add on?
Yeah, sure. I'd say that Audrey and Eric have said it absolutely perfectly to just the T. And I'll say, my experience as well to summarize is, be willing and be okay to make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, even something super small. For example, 2 weeks ago, I was working on a PCR reaction. I thought to myself, okay, I've added all the reagents. Just before I added to the thermocycler, I realized I'm missing water. Water, of all things. I'll say that, the biggest challenge for me, for example, in internships and when it comes to work is just, you know, being willing to just simply figuring out a new environment. And I think, and what I'll say to everyone is that you should always give yourself permission to be a learner. It's okay to ask questions, even the basic ones, because really something that I've learned through not only working in academic spaces and also in industry is that there really is no such thing as a silly question. In fact, you'll find a lot of times that people are actually quite happy that you're double checking with them or following up before you do something so that you're all on the same page. And similar to what Eric said, I think it's really about seeking the right people to help answer these questions. I sought out people who were willing to explain the why behind what they were doing. And I made a habit of taking on small responsibilities as well to help build up that confidence that is sometimes lost, between moving from academia and like an intro to biolab and into like a real lab where you're just like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Thank you so much, Ijeoma. All those tips are really great. Again, I hope everyone is taking some notes. And I want to remind you that soon we will open up our Q&A part. So prepare your questions. For those who are watching us through live stream, you can send us your questions by email, internships at upperweststrategies.com. So feel free to share your questions there. So next question that I want to ask about the skills. So what are the essential skills that students need to develop in order to be considered for entry-level jobs and R&D in life science, in R&D in the life sciences? Anyone have any idea?
Yeah, I would say, I think I mentioned this prior, but really truly understanding all of the terminology in your specified topic and really being up to date on the literature that's out is something that I have found really helpful in terms of communicating with PIs and being able to keep a pulse on what's going on directly in your lab and beyond. And I think probably the most essential skill that I've had to work on would probably be scientific writing. I think that being able to write concisely and being able to convey your methods and your results, being able to summarize that in a strong abstract is so important, particularly in a world where so many people are using AI now. I think it's like could not be more important to build those skills, and that is something that will be used whether you're in an industry setting, whether you're in an academic setting, whether you're going back for graduate school, like all of the above.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Okay. Yeah. So for entry level, I think we're expecting general lab experience. So just be prepared, how to make a buffer, understand how dilutions work, and never forget the formula M1V1 is M2V2. That's going to be so important. And then just being able to, I think it also helps if you come in with at least like one technical skill. And it doesn't matter what it is. So, it could be like you could be proficient at cell culture, or you can run ELISA, or you can run PCR, or, a flow or something. And because the expectation is like for a lot of these roles, they have so many different skills you need to have, but no one is expecting um, the perfect candidate to come in with all these skills, right? We're at least expecting you guys to come in with the ability um, to learn these skills. And what really builds confidence that you can do this is if you already have, one skill that you're very proficient about, you can talk about it. And you're kind of like a subject matter expert in that skill.
Thank you, Eric. Ijeoma, do you want to add on?
Sure. I'll say that one thing that I highly recommend is just, and I think as Audrey mentioned previously, we all sort of fall into the trap of, do I have enough experience? And, oh, I need more experience before I can get this experience. I think that, and really the best advice is just to have experience in general. It doesn't have to be anything huge. As Eric mentioned, it can be, for example, just 6 months or just something short in a lab. But whether, for example, it's a lab that you worked in while in your undergrad, or just, for example, a project you helped on during your master's, that counts as experience. And I think oftentimes, and guilty as charged, we look over our work and we just think, oh, that's nothing. But in reality, if you worked on a project, there are a bunch of technical skills that you had to use for that project. There's, perhaps a deep level of understanding that you had to gain during that project. And those are things that can really help you not only to reach out to companies and to figure out, what they like, but also to demonstrate that you're a person who is capable of conducting good science and is capable of doing so much more if given the chance at et cetera company. So I think that no experience is too small, and that if you have experience, absolutely just go for it, because really the door is open for you.
Thank you so much. That's really great to learn all of these advices. And I want to ask if you know any resources on how to develop those skills. Can you share? And it will be really helpful.
I can start, utilized several of the resources through LifeSci NYC in terms of like the interview practice and things like that. But I think the biggest thing that comes to mind for me is just like I said, when you're reading the literature, to make yourself aware of the space and make yourself aware of any gaps in the science that need to be filled. I think just the more that you can read, the better. Like before you speak with anyone, do some digging, figure out what they're working on, where their publications are, what their research trajectory looks like. And I think just expressing genuine interest in that can go a long way. So yeah, that's what I would say. Like the best thing you can do is just like open nature, open Springer, and just look at topics that interest you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I want also to ask you to give like one piece of advice to students who are looking to enter this field. And if you can give that advice, what it would be.
So my personal advice is, if you have the opportunity to take a course in statistics, take it. Like half the battle in science is just getting the experiments to work. But then once you get past that point and you've generated the data, the other half is just understanding it, interpreting it, being able to show significance, and just presentation. So statistics really, just gives you a cleaner lens to do all that.
Yeah, I absolutely second that.
I will go ahead and third that. Absolutely. Once you're done with the experiment, you're going to need to process the data. So statistics is definitely worthwhile.
Thank you so much. Sounds great. First question, when applying to research programs, would it enhance an application to include a variety of personal field interests and few different future career goals? Or is it really best to demonstrate that you have one relevant research interest career? Anyone wants to answer this question?
So my advice there would just kind of just be honing in on that one relevant research interest. Because you have to remember, like for the interview, you're not going to be able to talk about all those potential interests. You want to be able to talk like maybe one or two of those things. So that focus is needed.
Great, thank you. Next question. What are some of the main differences between the social / workplace environment in industry vs academia?
I'm happy to go ahead and tackle that question. Industry is, I'd say, more so you are working in your subsection team, for example, R&D, but you have responsibilities which overall contribute to the company. At the same time, you are also working, for example, with clinical, and you're also connecting, for example, with all different parts of the company. So this can be, for example, company-wide meetings, and then you'll have, for example, your own separate meeting with your sub-team. So I'd say the culture in the industry is very much you have your own responsibilities with who is really in charge of you, but then you have your overall responsibilities to the company's bottom line. As for academia, I can only speak on my experience because I know academia can be so different. But at least in what I've experienced is, being paired, for example, with a mentor, whether that's a postdoc or whether that's a graduate student, working on their project and, for example, working on what they're focusing on while contributing to, for example, what you might be interested in. And, for example, having your own project, as long as it pertains to the overall goal of what that lab is looking for. So, for example, working on metabolism, I've worked on a regulation project alongside what my postdoc is doing for deorphanizing transporters, but that helps support the overall goal of the lab for understanding cellular metabolism. So somewhat similar in the sense for both environments where you have a goal, you report to someone, and this is overarching, sort of like a different hierarchy. But I'd say that the pacing in academia, at least for me, was a bit faster versus industry. Because industry, you're communicating with so many different people and you have to follow these guidelines and so on. But academia, it's very much you get the results, you interpret the results, and then you think of, okay, what's the next hypothesis based on what we discovered? What are we doing next? And how does it support the research? And where are we going from here?
Thank you so much. If you have anything to add on, please feel free. Otherwise, I will go to the next question. Okay, so next question is about do jobs prefer a CV over a resume? If so, do you guys have any CV tips? Who is good for this part?
Yeah, I think in my experience, a CV has always been preferred in the scientific field and outlining your research. I think tips would just be to make it as clear as possible and make sure that, the first couple sections are any experiences that you really want to grab the reader's attention, because realistically, a reader of your CV will be looking at it for just a couple of seconds. Something that I have found helpful, advice I've received, is to add like a brief, 1 to 2 sentence research statement, either at the top or bottom. And that kind of just points the reader in the direction of like, hey, this is what I'm interested in, what I want to do in the future. And then here's my experience to back it up. And that's your whole CV. But I think that there is plenty of great CV templates online that can help, your work look very professional and formatted perfectly.
Great tips. Thank you so much. we have another question about cover letter now. Please give some advice on writing a cover letter. It is intimidating to me since I'm not used to it. So before asking this to our panelists, I want to highlight that our program offers support for you if you need help with cover letter, writing cover letter. We have resources how to write a cover letter, or you can. We also have some workshops. We will share all this information in the chat, and you can. You're welcome to use our resources. I wants to answer if you had any experience with a good cover letter.
I mean, to be honest, if I saw a cover letter, I just skipped it. But no, you should try to make a template, like a short introduction, a summary of, what you're doing, and then just like a very brief sentence or two about like how you would be a good fit for a role, and then just refer to the resume or CV. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, cover letters sometimes would be hard to write, but once you have how to do it, those instructions, it would be easier. So follow the instructions. Next question, what if one doesn't have prior research experience? How should they go about advocating for or growing their current skills and experience? This is usual for students, right? So maybe you can share your experience with this.
I'm happy to jump in here. I think I started and I was lucky enough to have a lot of labs available to me at NYU, which isn't always the same at smaller schools. But I think if there are any, whether it's a formal lab or whether it's a professor that you can help out with, all of the above is amazing. And if not, I think that the skills you learn in the classroom or even a lab class are really good too. Even if you are just doing an introduction to Western blotting or an introduction to any sort of cellular molecular technique, you can say, hey, I have, lab experience in that from this class. To show, you have exposure, even if you don't have a full experience, quote unquote, to talk about.
Thank you so much. I think this question is continuation of the previous one. As someone who doesn't have much research experience, like doing research, but a lot of lab experience for different science class, what is your advice when applying for internships?
Yeah, so I was in that exact same position, I think, after my junior year of college. So at that point, I had zero experience in any academic labs. I did not work with any professors at all. So what I had to do was leverage what I had done in the classroom. So for example, like I had a molecular genetics class, and as part of the lab portion, we were working with Drosophila. So it was a semester-long project where we were growing these Drosophila flies and then moving and looking at like the transposons. So like, screening flies for like their eye colors and all that. And I just put that on my CV as a project I did. And, even though it wasn't a formal experience with a professor, I was able to speak passionately about the project for interviews, and I think that made the difference. So don't be scared or, don't be nervous if you don't have a formal research experience. As long as you're able to sell yourself, that you can do research like that, you'll be fine.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Eric. Before jumping to the next question, there is one specific question for you. It says for Eric, which skills helped you the most in your process development role? What should an inspiring process engineer look out for?
Yeah, so I guess just being able to problem solve, I think it's good. And that just comes with like I'm learning like how do you even begin problem solving? Like and that comes from like learning from your mentors, like I said earlier, and designing good experiments with good controls. So like you will develop the skills as you go along, as you do the role. Um, I guess what you should look out for in the field is interaction effects. So for example, like say you're trying to optimize the growth of your cells. So you look at a variable like temperature. So you optimize temperature on its own. And then you also look at humidity, right? So you optimize humidity on its own. So you take the outputs of those two like experiments and you like try to combine them, and then like you're hoping for like an even better growth rate with those. But then you might get something that's really bad, and then you find out that those independent variables are actually interacting with each other and actually causing a negative effect. Just saying. Um, so that is a very common occurrence in process development. So just to look out for that. I would suggest it's just be on the lookout for that, and then look into DOE experiments, so design of experiments. So these are ways you can kind of um, start modeling for different factors and actually modeling for potential interaction effects.
Thank you so much, Eric, for your detailed answer. And I'm gonna read the last question, and due to time limitations, we will finish the career panel. So last question is about CV resume again, and thanks Sally for sharing our resources in the chat. We have a resume cheat sheet and a cover letter cheat sheet that you can have a look. So I will read the second part of this question. Will it be good or bad for someone to have a diverse background? Will this lower their chances if they add it in the resume? What do you think?
I think, and that's a really good question because this happens a lot of times. For example, say for example, you majored in CS, you have a lot of coding experience, but if you minored in biology, you also could have a lot of bio experience. I know a lot of individuals like that. And I'll say that having a diverse background gives you a really, I'd say, being the jack of all trades in the sense of you have all these technical skills and now what you're able to do is hone and select, okay, what do I show? What do I present about myself for each company or for each opportunity that I'm applying to? I'd say that sometimes it can be a double-edged sword because, for example, you don't want to sort of just spam your CV with a bunch of skills because sometimes that might not really demonstrate that you're focused on what exactly the opportunity is asking for, but it more so gives you the chance to tailor for that experience. And if you're coming in with a diverse background, you can be confident in the fact that you are quite confident and capable of doing really just about anything. So this opportunity is something that you most definitely can do. So I'd say that a diverse background is not bad, and it's just a matter of tailoring your narrative and sort of shaping your experiences to fit the role that you're applying to.
Thank you so much. Well, it's already time to say goodbye to our panelists. Unfortunately, we are not able to answer all of your questions, but we did our best, right? And now I want to say a huge thank you for being with us today. All of your advices were really helpful, and I hope our audience will use these tips and will be successful in their first career steps. Once again, thank you very much. And I want to say good night, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so
Thank
much for
you.
hosting us.
Bye-bye.